Alright guys, I'm gonna show you how to install an aftermarket steering wheel on your Scion FRS BRZ or 86 from years 2012 to 2016. So for starters, disconnect the battery and make sure you use a 10mm socket. So next step, you want to get the airbag off, and there are 3 holes. There's one here on the left, there's one here on the right, and then there's also one at the bottom. So you want to get your flathead, and you're going to feel for a metal clip that you're going to push like that, and like that. Good. So now your airbag can come off like so. So there are 3 connectors you want to take off. There are the 2 behind the airbag, and there's the ground cable for the horn. For the horn, there's a little tab you want to press down, and then it will come right off. And then for these, you pry with your flathead, like so. Alright. Like that, and like that. Now your airbag is free. Set that to the side, and then we'll move on to disconnecting this plug from the clock spring. This is your cruise control. Remember to unplug that. Leave these alone for now, and we'll get back to that later. Next thing you want to do, you want to remove the 17mm nut on the steering wheel. And make sure that when you do this, make sure that the steering wheel stays center, because that's going to be important when we install the wheel. Alright, now at this point, you want to beat on the steering wheel so that way it comes loose from the splines. It's loose. So now you can take your nut out. Just make sure that before you take the wheel off completely, make sure that the wheel is still centered. It comes out like that. Be sure to not move the clock spring too much, because we want to keep this center as much as possible. We don't want it moving around. Otherwise you're going to ruin the internal components of the clock spring, so leave that alone. Alright, we'll move on to the wheel. So there's a clip right here. Move the wire out of the way. There are 2 Phillips head screws holding the cruise control. You want to take that out. Next, you want to get your plastic trim out. And this one's going to be a little tricky because it's actually clipped on at the bottom. So you want to be very careful when you remove the trim. You just got to pry it out like that. So don't forget that not only when you remove this plastic trim, the screws that you just removed to take it out are connected to this black plastic cover for the back of the wheel, and it's just retained on the bottom by these 2 clips. So save this. Next, you want to take these 2 screws out to remove this plastic rubber piece, because this is supposed to act as a little spring for your horn. So you just do it like so. And good. So now this piece will go into the next wheel. Now don't worry about the 3 clips here, here, and here, we don't need those. This wheel is no longer going to be used. Now we bring on this wheel. So you got your new steering wheel, and it's going to come with these 3 clips to retain the airbag, and they pretty much go in the same spots as the old steering wheel. One right there, and one right there. When doing so, just make sure that when you install one of these clips, make sure it's facing in this orientation. Not like this, not like this, like this for the bottom one, which goes right here. And then for the other clips, slip on like that, like so. The other one should slip on like so. There you go. All right, now we can start putting everything back. So first, grab the back cover. Put it on like so. Just make sure everything is aligned. And then clip the bottom part of the back cover on the bottom. And make sure all of the holes align here and here. Right there. Not there, here. This one right here, top one. And then make sure you put this prong into this hole. And it'll just clip on. Had some technical difficulties there, but I got it. Now we got our screws that we took off earlier. One right here. And one right here. We'll tighten those down. Just do it snug, don't go too tight on it. It's plastic. Next, we grab this piece and make sure it aligns with the holes and the prongs, like so. Grab your 2 screws that you removed. Just hand tighten them first. You don't want to cross thread anything. Tighten them down like that and like that. Again, do it snug enough to where it's not going to remove it vibrations at speed. And then you grab your cruise control and you snake it back in. And you're gonna have to do a little bit of finessing to get it on right, like that. Okay, there you go. Prong is in the hole. Grab your screws. Snug them down. And now that's out of the way, grab your wire and put it back in that clip on the back cover. Just make sure you don't pinch it too much. There you go. Make sure it's moving freely, like so. And make sure that this wire, where it got caught, make sure it's behind. You don't want that in the way. So there you go. Steering wheel is ready to go back on. All right, so all you gotta do is snake your clock spring wires through and make sure that the wheel is aligned. Make sure it's straight. Now it's kind of crooked, but there's a little dot if you have very good eyes. So it's a little crooked right now, but I don't know if you can see it, but there's a small dot on where the nut goes. Follow that indentation to where the wheel's supposed to be straight. That way when you get the car aligned, it's in the proper position and it's dead center. Don't be that, and also that way you're not second guessing on which way the wheel is supposed to be oriented. So follow that dot to make sure that you put the wheel on straight. Even if it's not straight right now, that way you're not second guessing. That's the proper way you're supposed to align the steering wheel. Follow the dot. Next thing you want to do, grab your cruise control connector and plug it back on. There you go. Make sure there's no wire. Make sure there are no wires in the way. And make sure that this thing moves freely. Next, you can put your 17 mil nut back on. At this point, you want to make sure you set the torque to 29 foot-pounds for the steering wheel nut. Alright, so I have it set to 29 foot-pounds, and I'm using a clicker torque wrench. Okay, good. Now we're ready to put the airbag on. Now we pretty much do everything in reverse order. So right here, connect the ground, black connector, orange connector. Make sure you push these clips in so it doesn't go anywhere. And then all you gotta do now is just clip it back into place. But for some reason it's not working. I wonder why. There you go. And it's in. And now all you gotta do now is just take the protective foam off. And that's how you install a Tom's aftermarket steering wheel on your Scion FRS, Subaru BRZ, or Toyota 86.